Thank you, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the regular Committee of the Whole meeting for Monday, June 25th, 2018. I want to first recognize that we're holding this meeting on the traditional territory of the Nanaimo First Nations. And our clerk today is Ms. Sheila Gurry. I'd like to call the regular meeting of Council to order, and I want to remind everyone in the audience who may wish to ask questions that the question period sign-up sheet is over there at the table behind the clerks. And at the start of question period, the chair will call those who have signed up to the podium to address council. Can I have an introduction of late items, please, Ms. Gurry?
Thank you, Your Worship. On the addendum this evening, for agenda item 13B, we're removing the delegation from Ben Gesselbrack, Vice Chair, Nanaimo Recycling Exchange, and agenda item 13C, we're removing a delegation from Jan Hastings, Executive Director from Nanaimo Recycling Exchange. Agenda item 13D, we're adding a delegation from Deborah Hollins, Executive Director, Nanaimo Family Life Association, and Barbara McMillan, Community and Sector Development Coordinator for United Way, Lower Mainland. As well, I believe you have an addition under other business. You would like to request reaching out to the three MLAs in Nanaimo?
That's correct. It's with respect to, it will be under other business, and it's respect to sending a letter to our MLAs to assist us in getting a meeting with the Finance Minister concerning the speculation tax. Thank you. Any other items, Council? Seeing none, motion for the adoption of the agenda as amended. Moved by Councillor Thorpe, seconded by Councillor Hong. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favour? Opposed? Motion carries. Can we have a motion for the adoption of the minutes of March 12th, please? Councillor Thorpe, seconded by Councillor Armstrong. Thank you. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favour? Opposed? Motion carries. So the next one is presentation under corporate services. And the first item is the 2017 Annual Municipal Report. And this is to be introduced by Laura Mercer, Manager of Accounting Services. Ms. Mercer. Gotcha.
Thanks. Each year, by June 30th, staff have to present to Council an annual municipal report that encompasses financial statements, stats, and certain other requirements listed in the Community Charter. So to present to you tonight is the 2017 Annual Municipal Report.
Thank you very much. You don't have a presentation a slide presentation for us? Okay. So is someone prepared to move the recommendation, please? Moved by Councillor Thorpe, seconded by Councillor Armstrong. Discussion. Seeing none, call the question. All those in favour? Opposed? Motion carries. Next item. Thank you very much. The next item is Jackson Road, is under Public Services, and it's Jackson Road traffic calming, and it's to be introduced by Mr. Bill Sims, Director of Engineering and Public Works. Mr. Sims.
Thank you, Your Worship. Jackson Road is in the Duke Point industrial area out at the very end towards Biggs Park. And we've received a number of complaints over the years regarding street racing, and it's quite dangerous. Jamie Rose has been working extensively on the file, so he's got a few little points to bring forward to Council tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Rose. You're on.
Yeah, so we've got an information report in front of Council right now with a summary of the work we're proposing. We've worked with the RCMP. They've conducted an ongoing enforcement campaign. They've been pretty aggressive with it, but we're not seeming to get ahead of the issues right now. So having worked and discussed this with the businesses out at the end of Jackson Road, we've come up with a plan to introduce some traffic calming features, which we believe will quite significantly impact the street racing and stunt driving that's going on right now.
For the benefit of the folks that don't have the report in front of them, is it possible for you to expand on the measures going to be taken?
Yeah, if I can, I'm just going to get an image brought up. So this is a quick diagram. What we're proposing to do is introduce what we refer to as some chokers, splitters, and rumble strips. So what they do is they introduce a road narrowing. They then have a barrier in the middle which splits the traffic and then brings it back down through a choker again. And then we're going to be putting two sections of rumble strips placed so that they're not within the wheel path of the vehicles going to and from the businesses during the day. But if vehicles are attempting to drift or perform donuts, they will have a bit of trouble with that. And then another set of chokers and splitters to reduce that speed again.
Great. Thank you very much. Is that it? Great, thank you. Questions? Councillor Hong.
Thank you. Through you to staff, I know that says funding for this change is contained within the existing financial plan, but do we have a number?
We've got about an estimate of $25,000 right now.
Thank you, because can we just put those temporary speed bumps that we bought in there for the time being?
So the difficulty with placing those temporary speed humps out there would be that they would impact the industrial traffic to and from the sites. The other thing is we only have 2 pairs of them right now. This is a fairly long stretch, and if we modified them, we wouldn't be able to capture as much area.
Okay, thank you, because for the cost, I'd rather be building sidewalks, I think, from some of the areas, because I don't think that was this in the plans to get redone? Are we repaving? Are we doing this thing with this piece of road?
There was nothing in the plan for this road. This is something to address the road safety issues that are going on with the street racing.
Do we get any money from the RCMP if they're ticketing? Because I just think for us to spend $25,000 on this, I get why we have to do it, but we have so many other issues around the city that people are asking for sidewalks and stuff like that. But again, hopefully we can get to those items. Like I said, I know Boxwood has been a huge concern, and I'd rather see $25,000 going towards Boxwood before I see $25,000 kind of going into this project. I know that it needs to be done, but we've heard from the community that there are concerns. So that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kipp.
Yeah, there was a lot of complaints coming from Gabriel Island too, so we'll pass on this to Howard Hooley so he can inform some of those people there, because I got a number of complaints about this.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong.
Yeah, I was just going to, I understand Councillor Hong's concerns. However, I do think there's a lot of police resources spent out there in time that could be spent more efficiently than going after these, so I would totally support this. Thank you. And also, there is money that comes back from the province from provincial tickets that could be used towards this, correct? Through you to staff, sorry.
So my understanding, Your Worship, that we're not directly receiving funds towards specific projects. It just goes into the general revenue. But as Mr. Rose has pointed out, within the existing projects that we have in transportation, we're sort of stealing a little bit of money each. And further to Councillor Hong's comments on Boxwood Road, we've been working on that issue. We've vetted it through the Engineering and Public Works Committee meeting, and we should be in front of council shortly with that one as well.
Thank you. Councillor Fuller.
I'd like to move staff's recommendation.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, call the question. Those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. The next item is appointment of a bylaw enforcement officer to be introduced by Karen Fry, the Fire Chief and Director of Public Safety. And you are on.
Thank you,
Go ahead, Chief Fry.
Your Worship. So this is just procedure that generally when we hire staff and bylaws, in order to be able to enforce the bylaws within the city and to administer ticketing, they need to be appointed by council. We have a temporary employee that we've recently hired with the city, Mr. William Michael Edwards, and the recommendation is for his appointment from council.
Thank you very much. Is there someone prepared to move the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Armstrong, seconded by Councillor Thorpe. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, Chief. So, under other business, I would like to move that council supports my office sending a letter to our 3 MLAs, MLA Routley, Krogh, and Ms. Stilwell, MLA Stilwell, to seek their assistance in trying to get an appointment with the finance minister to discuss the speculation tax and how it applies to Nanaimo. Thank you. It's moved by Councillor Hong, seconded by Councillor Armstrong. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the question. Those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, Council. So the next one is under delegations, and the first delegation is from Lauren Hildebrand, President of the Nanaimo Deep Discovery Association.
Thank you, Mayor, City Councilors. Basically, Tim Tessier and I are going to give you a bit of an update on what's been happening with our organization, the progress we've made. But before I get going, what I'd like to do is to thank you again and the meeting in which you gave us a chance to look at some land at Port One Place. That has allowed us to make a number of very important steps forward, which I hope you're going to be as excited about as I am. Unfortunately, when we're done, we also have an ask too. But right now, I'm going to turn it over to Tim for that update.
Good afternoon. I'm Tim Tessier. Since we met, or since we presented in front of council, there has been some very significant developments. First and foremost, we have in writing a commitment from Mr. Phil Newton, who is the owner of the collection, which will form the basis for the Ocean Discovery Center. We have that in writing, so we're at no risk of losing it to the McBarge in Vancouver. Second to that, we've met with our provincial MLA as well as our federal MP to get the logistics and the beginnings of applications for fundings for our projects. They provided us with a list of must-dos, of which we then went and got answers. Further to that, we took our business plan, of which all of you have received, and we went out into the market and we had it reviewed by an individual who was responsible for setting up similar venues, one in New Zealand, one as well in Oregon, United States. He reviewed our 2015 feasibility study done by MNP, as well as our business plan, and our mandate to provide the citizens of Nanaimo a facility that does not become a drain as far as the operational costs. With his recommendations, he did suggest we go out and do some further studies. Lauren will talk further about that. So we solicited studies from MNP Economic Research and Consulting to do a market assessment and feasibility study. We went out to Compton Fundraising Consultants, which is again a feasibility study. Our target is to raise over $5 million from corporate and community contributions. We also went back to the architects. We've been working closely with the Ocean Discovery Center providers for attractions, which involves some more architectural work. The initial stuff was donated. As well, we went back to Seaproof TV, promotional documentary, community and media education and awareness, which is important within my next point. So with these letters of proposals, we put together the costs. A big one that was missing was Sinixt First Nations. And both levels of government, as well as yourselves, have asked us, where's SFN on this? We've had meetings over the last few weeks, and as recent as this morning, we've got a commitment from Chief Weiss and Doug White III that they would like to work in synergy and alliance on our feasibility studies to identify if we can bring their Newcastle initiative and the Ocean Discovery Center together and create a link between the two projects that will open up for all of Nanaimo. And that's where we're sitting right now.
So I have something. Can be passed out. Basically, we are pleased. 2 years has gone by. We're finally at the point where we think rubber can start hitting the road. What we have to do now is assure both ourselves, the city and the community, that this is in fact an organization that will not require annual and ongoing funding. However, to do that, we're going to need some money to get these feasibility studies done. So you can see we have 4 specific things that we need to get. One of those things is the economic feasibility study, and that will actually include hard facts and perhaps having people on the ferries asking people, would you stay in Nanaimo if there was an attraction like this? How many times would you come? Would you bring your family? How much money would you pay? The third one, which is to get our architects to work with some of the people that our committees have been working with, and I'm including some of those companies that have worked with Disney in creating attractions for Disneyland. We're in contact with 2 of those companies and have some absolutely phenomenal proposals for undersea things and attractions that are going to be both exciting and very much environmentally, educationally oriented. And so with those things, we think we're capable of going on and making our actual asks to both the federal and the provincial governments. However, without these studies, we're not really sure where the next clear step is. So we're here asking tonight. Now we recognize that there's all kinds of things coming up and there's elections coming up. There's a provincial government is going to have some changes. We are, clearly we're going into summer. Clearly we need to get these studies underway now if we're going to have any chance of getting into September with some clear answers for you about what is the actual cost and what is it that we're actually going to do. So we're here, we're asking for $100,000. And just so that you also know that we are not just putting it on you, we are also have gone to the Real Estate Foundation. We're asking them for some money. We're also going to the Hospitality Association and asking them for some money. The reason we can't go much farther out in our asks is we do not yet have charitable status, and we're not going to until we get some very clear indication from senior levels of government that they're willing to fund this. It's too much money, it's too much responsibility. Quite frankly, if you're not interested anymore, if we can't get the foundations interested to give us some money, we're probably going to say that we're not going to spend that much money on an organization that has to report, details every year. So here we are. I think this is an exciting time for us. I think you have been part of this. We're right at the cusp of making this thing go and achieving what our aims are. Everything we have seen has been positive. Our studies are show community support, and this is still 90% plus. So, questions?
Thank you. Questions for the delegation? Councillor Hong.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. It's great that you guys are still moving things forward. I have a problem with funding some of these items. I think for us to have a market assessment and feasibility study is reasonable, but for the city to pay for a promotional documentary, community media education and awareness, that doesn't seem to fall into our scope, or for the architectural as well, because the other one is the fundraising consultants. You guys should have had those done to have some sort of funding like everything else. We like to see that organizations are doing the work first, that other organizations have stepped up with funding so we can match to get those fundings. And then I understand that other organizations use our money to jumpstart their funding. For example, Vancouver Island Symphony, we give them $80,000 and they turn around and get $800,000. Phenomenal. So I haven't really seen on what the commitment from these other organizations are. So I can't really support a $100,000 commitment until we see that there is some other people that are willing to come aboard. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brennan.
Thank you, Your Worship. The promotional documentary, I guess, the projected cost is 127, and minus the promotional would be 100, and that is what you're asking for.
Correct.
So I understand that. I'm not aware of anybody who has said to me, don't support this. The overwhelming feedback that I've had is, this is great, this will be great. It also fits with the economic development information that we've got back, or the comments anyway, that without some sort of attraction. There's not a lot that's drawing people into our downtown. So I'm glad you've come forward with this request, and I'm glad that you've gotten this far in your quest to get this done. So, and I'll have questions for our staff, but I just wanted you to know that.
Thank you.
Subtracting the promotional video is, sort of brings us to your request, so thank you.
Can I answer one of the questions that Councilor Hong had? The reason the architectural study is in there is that until we get something very specific, it's very hard to go out and test the market. We've been out talking about this concept forever, and eventually, if we want to get some real hard data, if you want to know whether this thing is going to pay for itself, we have to put something in front of people that's very clear and very, very understandable. So really, the first step is to, and the architects will work with those big companies from out of town. Let me just go on one other question. I think that there's this amazing thing that's happened in terms of our work with the Nanaimo First Nations. The city has a chance to help fund a feasibility study that they are interested in, want to be part of. This is an amazing opportunity. I think you really need to carefully think about that.
Thank you. Councillor Fuller.
I've always thought this has been a great idea. This last minute thing about 100K is kind of gives me a little bit of trepidation, but it's not just, say, Schutzen, Newcastle Island, and Nanaimo. The benefit could also be, and I don't know if you looked into this, is when cruise ships come in, they routinely leave town, all the tours. And this would be a huge benefit to keeping people in town. Also fly in conjunction with the waterfront walkway. So I do think it's a great idea. And depending on the motion made tonight, we'll see whether I support you or not.
Thank you. Can Tim answer also?
Councillor Fuller, very good point. Early discussions with the Nanaimo Port Authority, their studies indicated a facility similar to the Ocean Discovery Center would attract an additional 20-plus boats per year. Now, what we've done with that information, because the Port Authority is changing the dynamics of how they operate and so forth. But part of asking council to participate in the feasibility studies, they've said to us directly, when you get your pieces in place, come back, because they've unofficially offered us as well money to do that further study to determine whether or not those visitors off the boat, because they will also be part of the MNP market assessment, is those individuals as well as those cruise ship organizations coming to Nanaimo, would you come? So that'll be part of our final assessment.
Thanks for that bit of information, because that helps me a lot in my decision making as well. So knowing that you've moved forward with that.
Thank you very much. I have a question for you, and that is with respect to how the project would put heads in beds.
There's one of the reasons I think the Hospitality Association has been very supportive so far. Both foundations that we've approached have indicated they're very interested. I think the problem with waiting for them to say yes is that we're going to be into summer. This council is going to be changing, and we're going to have some problems with that. But the heads and beds is going to be very clear that this is somewhere that people will come and stay for 2 or 3 days. This is not an afternoon kind of a thing. This attraction will bring people here for 2 or 3 days. I think it's going to fill the attraction for 2 or 3 days, and it's going to fill the city as they do other things as well. So we're going to see hotel beds go up. We're going to see restaurant meals go way up. And until we finish this next study, the earlier studies have suggested, although there'll be a real boom for about 6 months of the year, the rest of the 6 months should be still reasonably busy. So this is about having people come here for 3 or 4, even 5-day stays.
Thank you. So I'm just thinking something better than what you were asking for. You're asking for $100,000, and I I would suggest that, according to your document that you provided us, the projected cost is $127,575. So what I was thinking of was putting forward a motion that the city of Nanaimo would match a contribution from the Nanaimo Hospitality Association for dollar for a maximum contribution of $127,575, combining the two.
That's not, may I?
Okay? So maybe that will nudge them along a little bit, because they definitely, they have control of the municipal and regional district funds. This is, if there's heads and beds involved, they would be in their interest to fund this project out of that fund. Okay, so, just hang on.
Mayor McKay,
Yes, sir.
thank you for that. Initial discussions with the head of the Hospitality Association had indicated to us they could be putting forward about $25,000 at this stage. Now, we haven't gone back. We've made the application. It's currently in front of them. The Realtors Foundation, that intake is not until August. And they've also given us a good indication they would match the hospitality, but when we do the math, that if it's a match to match, we're short.
Okay.
So thank you for that, but that would be our only concern at that offer.
Questions to the delegation? Councillor Thorpe?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted the delegation's response to your suggestion, and I think I've heard it and I understand what they're saying, so that is answered. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We have no further questions for you, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So I'm prepared to move that motion. Okay. So it's been moved and seconded that we would match dollar for dollar with the Nanaimo Hospitality Association up to a grand total of $127,575. Well, we would match for a total of, between the two. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you, Chair.
It was seconded by Councillor Armstrong, correct? Right? Did somebody second
I
the motion?
seconded it for
Okay, great.
discussion.
Thank you. Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you. So I'll be interested in discussion, but at this point, I'm not sure I can support the motion. I do support the project. I think it's a wonderful project, and I have heard nothing but public support for this concept, and I want to see it move forward. The reason I don't feel that I am inclined to support your motion, Mr. Mayor, is that I think the city should be showing the leadership in this initiative, not simply sitting back and saying we'll match what somebody else does. I think the onus is on us, not on the Hospitality Association, not on the realtors. And if they want to get on board and help support, good for them, and I hope they do. But I would like to see the city take the initiative and show leadership and indicate that we are interested in supplying seed money for this project to move ahead. And so I would support the request of the delegation, but I don't think I can support the wording of your motion. Thank you.
Yep. Councillor Kipp.
Well, great project. It's been around for 2 years now. There's, like I say, everybody said it's no complaint about it, but this is a motion on the fly for me, and so I'm having trouble with it right now. I hear matching funds, I hear 100,000, I hear 120,000. I wonder why we would be paying a fundraiser 29,000. Come on, that's $29,000. When we did the pool, it was 1,400. You know, we gave committee groups and community groups some startup funding to raise money, and that didn't go that well. The video, is this a Nanaimo company? I don't know. Are these licensed Nanaimo companies we're dealing with? We're spending money on companies outside of Nanaimo. Are they business licensed in Nanaimo? There's a whole bunch that goes along with giving 100,000 for a project. So from my perspective, I don't like motions on the fly. I don't like them. We don't know where the money's coming from, who's giving it up, what it's coming from. It hit the table, I understand, just before tonight's meeting. So the information wasn't given forward for me to think on, so I'm not willing to make any motions on this tonight, other than send it to staff to see where the money would come from and whether these other people are in agreement of working together with us. SFN is only in for 2 weeks, and I didn't hear Chief Mike Wise, I heard Chief Doug White. So I don't know, was it Wise? Oh, okay, I thought I heard Chief White. So I don't know who's involved. SFN, just 2 weeks, 2 years into this, and now SFN's involved. And I know what that means for me. So I'm not ready really to support any motions today on the table. Thank you.
Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you. I support in principle what you're saying, Your Worship. I think we should be adding to it the British Columbia Realtors Foundation as well, because that would be additional. The reason I like that is I think then it shows a commitment from all community partners to move this forward, not just the city. So, but I kind of concur with Councillor Kipp as well. I'd like to have more information from staff, and perhaps we could bring it back till to the July 9th meeting.
SFN kicking in 25 grand too?
I would like to have those discussions to see where SFN is with that as well. No, I'm just saying. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brennan.
Like Councillor Thorpe, I wholeheartedly support this initiative, and I want to thank the delegation for sticking with it for as long as they have, and I guess that's one reason why I'm really hesitant to support the motion of the matching funds, because I fear that it may end up being less because just because people see things different than us sometimes. So I would be prepared to support a motion for $100,000, but I'd want to funnel it over to staff for a report on where the funds would come from, and just a general kind of report on the value to.
Are you voted on the motion that's on the floor right now, which is matching the funds from the Nanaimo Hospitality Association up to $127,575, that staff would need some direction as to where that funding was coming from. And if council didn't know, we would request the time to find out where that money would come from. So.
Well, I think what we would need to do here is to determine what the will of council is, first off, and then we would go, that would be provided we understand where the, what budget is coming out of. So we couldn't make a move until we did determine that. Councillor Hong.
Thank you. Just looking back at, Councillor Kipp and making motions on the fly, shouldn't this have come before Finance and Audit? Because it's money related?
Your Worship, through you to Councillor Hong, yes, normally requests for money would come before Finance and Audit. We weren't aware of a request for funds this evening. Our staff weren't informed of that.
Thank you. So as process goes, do we defer to Finance and Audit? Is this what we're supposed to do? I'm just trying to be fair, and I support the project, but if we start doing this again for what we were trying to do with Finance and Audit, it kind of defeats the purpose of having Finance and Audit again. So I thought we would discuss all that stuff there. So would it be correct to refer to Finance and Audit? Is that the right thing to do?
It's within your purview to do so.
So I like to make that motion. I think it's the right thing to do because we want to get other organizations knowing that coming before council for money on the fly and for us to make decisions is difficult. And the proper process is to go through Finance and Audit. Maybe one of the questions when somebody asks is, are you asking for money? And I'm actually defer to that. Thank you. So a motion to defer Finance and Audit or send it to Finance and Audit Committee, is that the proper, or?
Refer it to Finance and Audit for consideration.
Okay.
It's been moved by Councillor Hong and seconded by Councillor Fuller. Any discussion? No, there's no discussion.
Question for clarification, if I may.
Certainly.
On the motion, I understand there's no debate. Would this include referral to staff for their comment at the same time, or is that a separate possible motion?
With respect to the funding source?
Yes.
We can certainly ask that at Finance and Audit.
Yeah, Your Worship, now that staff is aware of this ask, we would look into providing you option as to where the money would come from if there's the money available. So we would provide you with that information when they came before Finance and Audit.
Okay, on the question of referral, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Show Councillor Brennan opposed. Motion carries. Thank you. Next item is delegation from Deborah Hollins, Executive Director, Nanaimo Family Life Association, and Barbara McMillan, Community and Sector Development Coordinator, United Way, Lower Mainland. Good evening.
Hello. Thanks for having us. I'm Deborah Hollins.
Barbara McMillan.
And we have a presentation we're going to do tonight, and I'm going to let Barbara lead that presentation. She's come over from the United Way of the Lower Mainland, so she's here tonight from Vancouver, and I'll just add some stats that are local related at the end of her presentation.
Thanks, Deborah. And while I'm with United Way of the Lower Mainland, our Healthy Aging Department is a provincial program, and so that's why I'm here, not your local United Way. But Mayor and Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak about the role of community-based senior services and the municipal role in supporting them.
Are we in a conflict? Because we're seniors?
No, I don't think so. I think if we're not all seniors now, we all will be soon enough. So, several years ago, a number of organizations began to raise concerns about BC's aging population and the importance of community programs in supporting older adults to remain physically active and mentally and socially engaged and remaining in their homes and in their communities. They were concerned about the lack of recognition of the value of these kinds of programs in the broader community and by the provincial government. So to help connect these groups and get them thinking more as a network or a sector, the Raising the Profile initiative was launched to start a province-wide conversation about how to build the capacity of the sector to address the growing needs of BC's aging population. When we talk about community-based senior services, we're referring to all nonprofit and municipal services that provide programming for older adults, including community centers, multi-service agencies, senior centers, community coalitions, neighborhood houses, and others. 7 core areas were identified in this work: nutritional supports, for example, a hot lunch program, community kitchens, or meal delivery for homebound seniors; wellness programs such as wellness clinics, peer counseling, outreach to higher needs or homebound seniors, and chronic care and support groups; physical activities that are tailored to people's needs and interests; educational, recreational, creative arts programming; information referral and advocacy, including helping seniors to access income support programs, housing, health services, and community resources; transportation to provide access to community and health services; affordable housing, which is essential to supporting people to live in community. Through research and regional consultations that took place over the course of 18 months throughout BC, all over the province, that culminated in a Healthy Aging Summit in November of 2017, some key issues were identified, including a large number of seniors rely on community-based senior services, or CBSS, for their social connections and support, particularly important for seniors with lower incomes, and there is an increase in the needs of seniors who are requesting services. Because of increasing diversity of the seniors population, additional resources and new programming models are needed to support more isolated and vulnerable populations, such as those with limited English, LGBTQ, and low-income seniors. The sector is fragmented, and nonprofit agencies compete with each other for very limited program dollars. And this limits the capacity for collaboration. So new approaches to funding and service provision are needed to support capacity building and improved collaboration. And this sector is highly dependent on volunteers, and we know that recruiting and training volunteers is a growing challenge. So specific to municipalities, we learned that in some communities, there are creative, effective, and mutually beneficial partnerships between the municipality and the not-for-profit seniors groups locally. In others, agencies operate in isolation. You can go into some communities and find that senior serving organizations barely know each other exists and certainly don't talk or partner with each other. In some cases, relationships are more competitive than collaborative. There are concerns by pretty much all municipalities about downloading from the province, resulting in some municipalities not wanting to step into this area at all and not supporting senior-specific programming. But at the same time, there's many good examples of municipalities that are very proactive and progressive in supporting and/or providing services for seniors. For example, we learned from a focus group with municipal planners and service providers in Metro Vancouver that some different approaches to supporting seniors include Vancouver providing grants to nonprofits. Other municipalities provide services directly through municipal-run senior centers, such as in Richmond and Coquitlam, Burnaby, and West Vancouver. And still others, like Maple Ridge, play a key coordinating role in bringing together all senior services providers on a regular basis. This session also demonstrated the benefit of sharing experiences and of the groups learning from each other. One of the mechanisms for strengthening the CBSS sector is to unite under a shared declaration that recognizes the importance of CBSS health promotion and prevention work and the need for capacity building. We've got copies of the declaration to hand out to you, and we hope that you'll take the time to read it and become signatories. This was signed by over 140 local stakeholder organizations, from local, national, and provincial at the Seniors Summit in November. The declaration also acknowledges the importance of closer collaboration between nonprofits, municipalities, and the provincial health system to maximize the potential for older adults to age in place. I'm not going to go into detail about all of the things that we've done or are planning to do since the summit and the consultations took place, but we do have a community-based senior services leadership council of 20 representatives from throughout BC, representing large and small communities and all the different types of organizations that are working in this sector, that really guides and informs this work. And Deborah is a member of that council. So if you have any questions or want a lot more detail about the kinds of efforts that are underway, then please talk to Deborah. But one of the key pieces of work that is happening that I wanted to talk a little bit about is the CBSS Knowledge Hub. And that is will be a dynamic, interactive online platform aimed at strengthening communication, coordination, capacity, collaboration, and cohesion of the CBSS sector. The key components are listed here: community programs, sector capacity and organizational development, and sector strengthening strategies. And there are actually many different features that will be included, and we hope to launch the hub formally in the fall. And we also hope that municipalities will be active participants in Knowledge Hub activities, and look forward to keeping you apprised of the progress of this feature. So, in conclusion, we believe that there's a really important role for BC municipalities in helping to strengthen this sector by profiling their contributions to supporting senior services, by sharing promising practices among municipalities and with not-for-profits, and building local capacity, and highlighting the need for more funding to other levels of government, and planning effectively for the growing challenges of an aging population over the next 20 years, and to support the CBSS declaration, both locally and through UBCM. And we will be displaying and hopefully presenting at UBCM this fall at the conference in Whistler. Thank you.
So just to talk about what's happening in Nanaimo locally, Nanaimo Family Life Association is the the agency that is doing the Better at Home program in Nanaimo. We were chosen to do that program from the community of other nonprofits that work in the senior sector. So because of our 50-year history of providing services in Nanaimo, 35 of those with providing senior-specific services, it was felt that we were the ones to take this on. So we began offering Better at Home programming here in our community in 2014. The Better at Home programming works really hard at developing partnerships because, again, there is a lot of competition in the sector, and so in order to come together and work together to address relative issues in our community, we work with the Nanaimo First Nations. We work with the Nanaimo Senior Services Network. That is a really interesting partnership because the NSSN brings together private and not-for-profit sectors to really look at ways to support seniors in our communities, and that has resulted in some really amazing opportunities.
I have to get you to wrap. Your 10 minutes is up.
Okay, sorry. And so that just sort of gives you some ideas of who we're partnering with. I just want to finish with saying that in Nanaimo, we're working with around 400 clients at any given time. You can see the things that we're doing with those in terms of numbers: friendly visiting, transportation, light housekeeping, and grocery shopping. So I guess the point being that we are doing a lot of work with seniors in our community right now. Our ask would be to have you support the declaration that you have in front of you as a council. And thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the delegations? Just one comment where you were talking about competition. It appears as though it has become a competition. It's become a competition for municipalities and for not-for-profits trying to do their work. I can't tell you how disappointed I was when the Prime Minister recently referred to a program they were running, the Smart Cities Challenge, and he referred to the funding as the top prizes. That you would have to compete for the prizes. And the grand prize winners and the runners-up will be announced, in a number of months from now. It's pretty disappointing when funding is now being referred to as prizes. Thank you. I don't see any other questions for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilor Brennan.
I would move that City Council make the declaration as requested.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Councilor Kipp.
It's the first time I've had a chance to look at it, first time I've had a chance to read it. I'd like it to go to staff, come back with a report of what it entails. Just to say it, I mean, I support, I'm a senior now. How can I not support it? Being active and things. But again, I support it, but I haven't even had a chance to really read over the 7 points of it. But I appreciate the fact that we should move it forward. It's a declaration. But just signing a declaration, does that mean we're actually going to do anything? And that's why I'd like it to go back to staff to see, we signed the declaration and what can we do as a council? I mean, just signing it's one thing, but what can we do to further the goals of the Summit on Aging? So that's my point.
Thank you. No further questions, Council?
No, it's a motion. It was on the table. I'm not going to defer it.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded. Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now we come to question period. Thank you. And the first is Gary Shep. So first off, I would need to get your address for the record, and the clerk, I'm going to have to ask the clerk to determine whether or not the question is a subject of an agenda item. Thank you.
My name is Gary Shep, 5177 Sam's Way, Nanaimo.
Do you need anything else?
Nope.
Okay. May I
So
proceed?
as property taxes were not on the agenda tonight, sir,
Yes.
I need to get an idea of what of where you're going with your question, because property taxes, as you've listed as an agenda item, was not on the agenda.
Well.
The question period is for agenda items.
If I can proceed with it, I would first of all like to say that the council, I know, is very proud of the fact that they kept the property taxes this year to less than the 3% increase. And being the time of year it is, I thought this was the opportunity to have a discussion about something like that. Now, I don't know.
Just a moment, sir. Ms. Curry.
Oh, yes, thank you, Rochelle. I apologize, I didn't understand what you were asking me, and I didn't look at the questions when I provided them to you. So question period, sir, is normally only for questions that are on the agenda. You could sign up to a committee of the whole meeting and speak to this issue.
No, I'm sorry, I can't hear you very well.
Oh, so this item isn't on the agenda, and when you ask a question of council, it has to be specifically based on a question that's on the agenda. If it had something to do with our annual municipal statement, maybe, or our municipal report, possibly, but that's what the mayor was letting you know, that only questions can be asked if they're related to an item that was on the agenda.
Isn't an overall tax increase a related item? I would think it
No,
should
sir.
be.
No, sir. The setting of the property taxes was not an agenda item tonight.
Okay, well, I'll be more specific then. My question is going to be towards the $1 million increase in the general government tax bracket.
Again, was not on the agenda. If you want to formulate a presentation for council and bring it forward at the next committee of the whole meeting, or perhaps the next Finance and Audit Committee meeting, we'd be more than happy to hear you as a delegation.
Okay, well, I'm sorry about that, because I understood that this was a meeting of the Committee of the Whole.
Correct.
That the financial plan was being presented and was being reviewed, and I guess approved. And my comments were simply on that financial plan.
No, sir.
and the
No, sir.
impact of
No,
increase.
no. The financial plan, what was being presented tonight for council's consideration was the submission of the municipal report.
Okay, well,
We'd be very happy to hear you as a delegation at the next Finance and Audit Committee meeting, or if you sign up as a delegation for a Committee of the Whole meeting.
all right, I'll bring it up another time then.
Thank you. Ms. Curry.
Yes, we can get his contact information right here, and then we can let you know when would be the best time to come.
Thank you. Next person on the sign-up sheet is Dorothy Houghton under agenda items 7A and 13A.
Hi, Dorothy Houghton, Nanaimo. I just wanted a point of clarification. When you made that motion, you made a motion to, Mr. Mayor, you made a motion to match funds, and then it was seconded, but it wasn't voted on, and then a new motion. Is that just for my own?
So first off, that wasn't, you asked to speak to 7A and 13A.
Yeah, 13A had to do with the,
Okay, so you're going
With the-
13A versus first?
sorry?
Okay, thank you.
What?
It says you want to speak to agenda items 7A and 13A.
Yeah, I started with 13.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. Didn't mean to confuse you there.
So your
So-
question is?
So my question is, when you made the motion to match funds, and then it was seconded, and then you chatted for a bit, but it never got voted on, and then there was another motion. I'm just wanting for my own information. Shouldn't that motion have
Okay,
been?
so it was seconded,
Yes.
and discussion went along, and then it was referred. It was referred to another committee.
No, another motion was made.
No, but the motion for
Oh.
referral is not debatable.
It's a superior motion.
Correct.
Okay, so that original motion doesn't need to be,
Voted on.
what do you call it? Sorry? Yeah, or withdrawn. I see, okay. My mistake. I was confused, but now I know. Okay, the other, item 7, I looked through the annual municipal report. Whew, now there's a read. There was lots in there. Under the one of the accomplishments, I noticed that the Events Center referendum was there, and I was just wondering in what context or matter would that be considered an accomplishment? That the referendum actually happened, or is it?
Well, it's a little difficult for us to determine. I know it was referenced a number of times during the report. At what point were you referencing it? What page?
Oh, I don't know.
In what respect?
Pardon?
In what respect? Was it being
It
presented?
just said
in the-
accomplishments, and then there was nothing else that further.
Okay.
But I can get that page number if you want.
Just a moment.
And,
Just a moment.
Get back to you.
Ms. Curry?
I know it was probably noted as an accomplishment under legislative services, but that was specific to the actual referendum. So the day of the vote and the days leading up to the vote, I know of that reference to it. I don't know if there was possibly others, but that was an accomplishment for our department in staffing and running a successful referendum and getting people out to vote and
Oh, I
handling
see.
that. So
Okay.
that was a success for us in that way.
Oh, great. And yes, and you guys did a fantastic job.
Thank you. Councillor Hong?
Thank you, and I just wanted to echo what Ms. Gurry said. I think it's whether it's an accomplishment of whether you are in favor of it or opposed to it wasn't the item about, it was about what the staff managed to do in 2017, because,
Yes, I heard.
yeah, so that's
Ms.
pretty much
Gurry.
it. And that goes for all the other items too, so not just the event center. There's a whole bunch of other people, like the hometown hockey was in here as an accomplishment, whether you supported it or not. It was something that the staff did, so as an accomplishment is what it was.
Well, may I?
Certainly.
Is there anywhere that I can find out, now that you've brought that up, what kind of financial accomplishment, as it were, did that hometown hockey actually put into Nanaimo? I don't think I've ever seen that anywhere. Is it noted somewhere that I could look at? Because I'm just really curious, because you brought it up.
Yeah, we have a cost. Is that, the cost has been issued out to the public already.
That's great.
So I don't think we actually hired the staff
Thank you.
to figure out the accomplishments of what the value of any of these things are. We can
So
say the
perhaps
same.
Councillor Kipp seems anxious to answer that question.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Councillor Kipp?
Just from my perspective, we spent some money, and the idea of spending money was to have a community enjoyment. So how do you judge 2 weeks of people coming downtown? How can I value 4,000 kids going down the zip line? How do I value 1,000 people skating on the little rink? How do I value the TV coverage? When you looked at the TV coverage from hometown hockey, you would be in the neighborhood of $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 to just get a few seconds on an NHL hockey game. So I guess when you look at the economic, the social equity, and the environment, how do you benefit? Who benefited from that? And how do you put a dollar value on that? And how many people came to town to watch it? And that's, I think, where you say, what was the value for it? If I say, well, we spent a bunch of money, we got a little arena that we haven't put up again, we got a zip line that hasn't been up, well, yeah, no, it's a failure from my view, because I never went down there. But if you went down there and you hung around for weekend after weekend and watched people have fun and watch the videos that were produced from it, you say, well, there's a value. And that's all I can say for it. It's more than money for me. But
Yeah,
it's a lot.
just simply the question that I was asking, was it documented anywhere? Was it anything kept track of? I hear what you're saying.
I did hear, that's it.
Thank you. Ms. Houghton, what I will tell you is that perhaps, does staff have, does Legislative Services have your contact information?
Yes.
Okay, the reason I say that is because whether you're prepared to accept it or not, or, you know, for face value, there was a very good presentation that was provided to council shortly after. I don't know how hard it would be to find the information for you on the presentation. I believe it was Mr. Harding that had provided a number of statistical benefits with respect to the investment, including the amount of perceived on-air advertising, those sorts of things. So if Legislative Services could find that for you, I'm not sure if it was in a printed report or whether it was in the video from a council presentation. But if they can find that for you and forward it to you, that would be great. Thank you.
Great, I'll talk to
Great, thank you.
Scurry after, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn. Seconded by Councillor Kipp. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.